And our next topic is the recovery sites. So recovery sites or recovery strategy refer to how we are going to recover our operations. And recovery site refer to alternate location where we can resume our critical business operation from it in case we have a disaster or disruptive event. And it makes sense that recovery site should be far away from the original location because if we have a disruption because of some kind of natural disaster or something like this, the recovery site need to not be impacted or need to not be subject to the same risk that might impact the primary site. And when we select which kind of recovery site that we can rely on, we need to consider what is the RTO. Because RTO might be like if we are going to restore the business services, IT may say that according to the existing requirements, we might take 10 hours. So if these 10 hours are not acceptable by business, then we will need to seek another alternative site or another solution or another strategy, which can be creating a mirrored site, for example. So RTO is basically based on the business criticality. Organization compare the recover cost against the losses that they might encounter. And in order to be objective in this assessment, it is important also to know what is the recovery cost required. Recovery costs include not only the cost of establishing or activating the new DR site, but also could include what is the data loss or what is the missing opportunities during the outage that we have. So maybe the organization might say that in case to maintain a mirrored site, I need to pay like 100K per years for utility, for facility, for whatever. And they might look and say that this is a huge investment and we cannot tolerate. But when they do actual and objective valuation for what is the lost opportunity during the actual outage or actual disaster, they might see that due to disaster they lost many customers. So in that case, this need to be considered as part of the recovery costs. And in that case, they might compare this total cost against the actual cost of having the data center or having the facility or whatever, and they might realize that yes, paying 100K is more better than having our reputation and have our customers lost. So recovery sites has many types. For example, we have what is known as mirrored site or mirror site, and mirror site is another site, another data center that is synchronized in real time with your active or your primary data center. It is very costly to implement because basically you are making your IT infrastructure 2x doubled because you are basically create primary and secondary and you are replicating data, so you are consuming one connection and a lot of aspects that you need to consider for the mirror site. But the benefit here is mirror site is very fast in terms of recovery. So whenever you have an issue, it is matter of maybe minutes until you like update the global traffic management information or DNS information, and based on that, all users will be redirected to the new site or to the mirrored site. So it is very fast in terms of recovery, and that's why it is adopted and used by critical businesses. The size of business require something like this, so we will rely on mirror site. The other type of recovery sites is known as hot site. And the hot site is another recovery site. It has all required systems and hardware, but what is missing there is actual data. So during the disaster, the technical team will go to the recovery site and they will take the backup image, the latest backup, and start restoring this backup back to servers. So this will take time, but it might take 2 to 4 hours depending on the size of data, depending on the storage requirements, whatever, and maybe backup might take more than 4 hours actually. But it eventually it depends on how much data that they are going to restore in accordance to the service delivery objectives that we have already. The next type of recovery site is known as warm site. And the worm site is equipped with some hardware, but does not include all required hardware. But in case of disaster, we need to acquire additional hardware from local markets, or we have like an enterprise level agreement with one of the technology vendors. So they have an obligation that whenever we have a request such as this, they will deliver new hardware or some HCI devices, hyper converged infrastructure to this location, and everything will be good. It will take time extra than the host site, but again, it is depending on what is acceptable interruption window by the business. Some kind of businesses might have an acceptable interruption window for 2 days, which mean we can rely on warm site, for example. The next type is known as cold site, and the cold site is just an empty space. Include AC, include cables, but there is no hardware. So in case of disaster, we will go and we will acquire hardware and we will start installing the hardware and God be with him. يعني. Okay, so cold site take more time than the warm site, and this is the idea of cold site. Last type, or the one before the last one, is mobile site, and mobile site is like a modular data center, usually implemented inside a container, which is the container that we put on ship and transport it over sea. And inside the data center, we might have, or inside this container, we might have some basic computing devices that can be used in order to resume the work until we manage to fix the original data center. But basically, mobile sites in the context of data center is not very common, at least from my own experience. But I can see that mobile site is more applicable in terms of 4G and 5G networks, where when we have a disruption or when we have a disaster and the telecom infrastructure got impacted, we can find that telecom companies have such a solution to dispatch a mobile site that include tower to enhance the communication and start resuming the communication service in this affected location, for example. Cloud-based site is the use of cloud services or infrastructure in order to provide DR capability, and it can be quickly and easily provisioned because we will not need to rely on supply chain to provide hardware such as a cold site, and also we might utilize the benefits of the cloud such as the pay as you go and the inherent features in the cloud such as the scalability. If we need to scale up or scale down, we can easily, or we can do that in a way or another.